Hey GQ, I'm Oscar Piastri, and this is The Breakdown. All right, Grand Prix.
You have to remember that at Monte Carlo, because of the nature of the circuit, you shift gears over 2,600 times during the race.
So Monaco, where this is filmed, one of the iconic F1 circuits that is still on the calendar today. It looks a little bit different to what it does back in this film. The hay bales are now all just Armco, there's catch fences everywhere, some of the corners have changed a lot, but most of it's actually still the same. It's one of the toughest circuits on the calendar. I'm glad that I can race it in my cars now, not these ones. The aerodynamics have gone a long way since this was filmed. You can see all the suspension and all the springs outside the car in this. Nowadays they're all much tighter inside the car. And of course there's no rear wing on this car either, and from the car behind there's no front wing either. It's got like the mirrors that are just there, which I can't imagine would do much. But now of course the tires for us are much bigger. They're slick tires, there's no grooves. You can see the pedals on the right there, very different to how they are now, and a manual gearbox with a H pattern. Now we just have little paddles on the back of the steering wheel. You'll notice the helmets are very different. You can't see an inch of our skin. The cockpit's much higher, just everything's very, very different to a modern F1 car. Yeah, we have some more luxuries in today's world.
Well, actually, walking the course is just about the last thing I do on the morning of a race.
So he was talking about doing a track walk, which we still do today. Maybe not everyone does a track walk these days, but for me, especially my first year, I've done a track walk at pretty much every circuit. Just gives you a first look. So yeah, it's nice to know that some things haven't changed in 50 or 60 years in the sport. But yeah, that's kind of like one of the things to prepare the track. Of course, now compared to back in these days, we've got a lot of data logging, so we can look at that, and onboard cameras as well. You've got a lot more tools at your disposal these days. Le Mans. I've never driven a Le Mans car, but this is how I would imagine it to be. Le Mans looks very different back in the day. I mean, some of these cars are awesome. Old GT40. So the spray in the movie is pretty well replicated, I would say. Modern day F1 cars, the spray is massive. Whenever you see us race in the rain, especially when it's very heavy rain, it does get a bit scary sometimes. You can't see, 5 or 10 meters ahead of you. So there is some element of hoping there's no one stopped in front of you. Yeah, it's something that we're trying to constantly improve and work on. It's probably our biggest safety point in the sport at the moment that we're trying to improve. But yeah, presents a very big challenge for the drivers.
Your attention to the pit area. The long tail Porsche number 25 is coming in after having been out on the circuit for only 14 minutes.
That's one big difference from Le Mans today and all racetracks today. As you can see, there was a car going past flat out, and there was no pit wall. So just a white line on the track that separates all the teams, all the pit crews from the track. Obviously not particularly safe. Of course, we have like pit speed limits, which for F1 is usually 80 kilometers an hour, some tracks 60. And the pit stops back in these days, I imagine there was refueling. That is no longer a part of Formula One. And it's probably much safer that it's that way. Also the changing tires and stuff like that. We currently hold the record at McLaren, which is 1.8 seconds. I don't think you'd even be able to get the wheel gun onto these wheels in 1.8 seconds. I guess the professionalism of the sport in general, we've got nearly 20 guys changing tires at a pit stop nowadays, and here I imagine there's probably less than 20 people on a team. But yeah, it's pretty crazy to see back in the day what it used to be like. Cars, a classic.
We need tires now, come on, let's go! No tires, just gas! You need tires, you idiot!
I'd probably get a similar reaction from my pit crew or engineers if I did the same thing. I know exactly what happens in cars after this, so I know the consequences. So yeah, in a Formula One race, it's very rare you'd run into this problem. Lightning tries to stay on one set of tires. Mechanics obviously aren't very happy with him. I don't know, maybe the mechanics do get that angry. I haven't seen, but you wouldn't run into this problem because we have to do at least one pit stop. We have 3 different types of tires in F1. We have a soft tire, a medium tire, and a hard tire, and you have to use 2 different types at least during the race. So you'd always do at least one pit stop because otherwise you get disqualified. But sometimes we do more than one pit stop. So sometimes we'll do 2. On rare occasions, we'll do 3 if the tire wear is really bad. So you can get into this problem if it's a sort of a crossover race between 1 pit stop and 2. Pretty rare you would get into this problem. There's a few ways of being able to tell when the tires are getting to the end of their life. A lot of the time you get slower, and that's usually when it's a good time to pit. It's quite rare that you'll run a tire to the point where it explodes, because normally by that point you're a lot slower. So you normally change tires before this point. Blowing tires like this, your chances of finishing the race are pretty slim. Lewis Hamilton has finished a race on 3 inflated tires at Silverstone once and won the race still. Definitely the first time I've seen it happen. Maybe it's not the first time, but I think the last time we'll see that for quite a long time. Speed racer. So I guess the first thing to point out is I would never back out to lose a race. I get there's emotional reasons in the movie, but yeah, I guess, racing against people I've kind of grown up watching, people like Lewis, people like Fernando on TV. Fernando's been reminded a couple of times that his F1 career is longer than my life. Yeah, it's pretty cool to watch these guys growing up and now race against them. Of course, you try and forget about them once the helmet goes on. They're just another guy you're trying to beat, but definitely it's pretty special to race against these kind of guys that you look up to in your junior career, or even earlier than that when you're a little kid, first getting into F1 or motorsport. So to now be racing against them is a pretty special feeling. All right, Gran Turismo.
What the?
See ya. Bye.
I don't really talk when I'm driving, especially to myself. So that might be a little bit of Hollywood, but I don't know. I'm sure there's other drivers that do say "see you later" in their helmet. It's always nice when you can capitalize on other people, fighting amongst themselves, and then you get a clear path. So that's quite realistic. I have actually driven on this track in real life as well, so that part's definitely realistic. Yeah, I mean, it's rare you see crashes as big and dramatic as that, but they do happen. Definitely seen some big crashes like that. And I think, it's always something you try to avoid, of course. Sometimes it's unavoidable, but I guess you can be in riskier situations, and having a good sense of awareness of other cars around you is, of course, important to avoid crashes. So coming into F1 as a rookie, I guess there's a lot of expectations, a lot of people that don't really know what you're capable of. I didn't race last year. I was a reserve driver, so there was some rustiness coming back into actual racing. But yeah, you always kind of under scrutiny, whether you're a rookie, whether you're in your 20th year, but definitely you've got to, I guess there's some kind of wanting to prove yourself and establish your name in the sport. McLaren have signed me up for another 3 years, so clearly they think I'm okay. Formula One and motorsport in general is an expensive sport. This movie is all about a guy who got his chance in real life motorsport through simulators, which for us is now a very important tool, the simulator. By rules, we're not allowed to do much testing anymore, so we have 3 days of pre-season testing and that's it for the whole season. So the simulator and trying to get that as accurate as possible is incredibly important for us. Rush. So fun fact about Rush, earlier this year at Goodwood, I actually drove James Hunt's car that is in this movie. I'm very glad I don't have to race that car on a weekly basis, because safety has improved a hell of a lot since then. But no, very, very cool, and I guess now closer, deeper meaning with the movie Rush. That's a fun fact.
Well, those of you with experience know the ring needs perfect conditions to be even remotely acceptable in terms of risk. Well, today with the rain, is anything but perfect. So I called this meeting to take a vote to cancel the race.
I think as drivers, of course, there's 20 of us in the world, and there's not many people in the world that have the same experiences as us. And we're always trying to push the forefront of safety, and meetings like this on weather, on car safety, especially in the past. Without those safety improvements back in the day, we would be in a much worse off place as a sport. And in some ways, we owe a lot of our lives to people like Niki Lauda in their continuous push for safety and improving that. I think even now, where we're still trying to make the sport safer, it's gone a long way from when this was, but there's always things we can do to improve. And yeah, I think as a driver, as a grid, we're very united. I think we've been able to achieve some good things for the sport. It's our job at the end of the day, and we want to make it better for us all, safe for us all, and better for people to watch. So we don't normally review documentaries, but this is a very important one for F1 and for motorsport. So, Schumacher.
When Michael came into Formula One, this was a time when there were big names. Senna was world champion with McLaren. Mansell was driving for Williams.
So Michael's pathway into F1 was pretty different to what you would see nowadays. F3, then into sports cars, and then Formula One mid-season. Mid-season F1 debuts are not unheard of. We had Liam Lawson this year, who came in mid-season to replace Daniel Ricciardo when he broke his hand. So that side of things is not unheard of, but coming from sports cars is very, very rare nowadays. Yeah, there's not many drivers. It's kind of a pretty set pathway, starting from go-karts or now even sim racing, then going to Formula 4, Formula 3, Formula 2, Formula 1. So for me, that's what I did. I did Formula 4, I raced Formula Renault, which is basically Formula 3.5, if you want to think of it like that. Formula 3 and Formula 2, and then got my way into F1. So that's kind of the traditional pathway now. I don't know, maybe we'll see someone come from sports cars to F1. It's pretty rare nowadays. I guess back in the 90s, it was more common. Mark Webber, my manager, did a very similar thing. So yeah, it's not really something you'd see anymore. Michael Schumacher came into the sport when he was very young at this time. Now I would say that age is considered kind of normal, if not even a bit old. Max Verstappen joined the sport when he was 17, so that will never be repeated again. But the age, I guess, is now lower. I started when I was 21 this season, so I guess still pretty young. But no, it's kind of cool to see how the sport's constantly evolving. People are getting younger, cars getting quicker. I mean, if I can try and repeat the success that Michael had, I'd be a very happy man. But yeah, coming to the sport, came in mid-season, had to perform straight away and sort of earn his shot in F1, and he was able to deliver straight away. So very impressive to watch. Trying to do the best job that I can to do the same. Thank you for watching these clips with me. I hope you learned something new. See you next time.